Welcome. My name is Suzie LeBlanc, and I'm the Artistic and Executive Director at Early Music Vancouver. And today I'm thrilled to be speaking with Canadian violinist Cristina Zacharias, who is a member of Tafelmusik and other ensembles, and also one of its three co-artistic directors. And we'll talk about Tafelmusik and about that, and perhaps a few other things, Baroque. Welcome, Cristina. Lovely to have you.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here.
Well, before we talk about Tafelmusik, Cristina, I'd still like to just talk a little bit about you and maybe how you came to music or how it came to you, and also how you ended up being interested and passionate about early music or Baroque music.
Oh, sure. Well, that could take a long time, but I'll give you the shorter version. Like many violinists, I started around age 5. That's kind of a normal time for people to start the violin, for kids to start the violin in the Suzuki program, which is the program that I was in at that time. I had very dedicated music-loving parents who spent the next 15 years driving me all over the place. This was in Manitoba. So driving through some very dark, wintry, icy roads in the Manitoba winter to bring me to my violin lessons and to music festivals and to orchestra rehearsals and to all of that sort of stuff. And it wasn't, I was always interested and felt a deep connection to Baroque and classical music in particular. I mean, I think like so many people, that music just resonates very naturally. And I had explored to the extent that I was able in my undergrad years in Manitoba. But when I did my master's degree at McGill University, so when I moved to Montreal, and this is probably right around the time we first met, Susie, that I had the opportunity really to delve deeper into the world of the Baroque violin, which is a completely separate instrument for one thing. So suddenly I had the chance to play on one and to join a Baroque orchestra and to start investigating more deeply. And so that was a very exciting journey for me, and it just kind of launched the rest of my studies very significantly.
Amazing. Yes, like that is the short story, I'm sure. But actually, you mentioned something. You just said, it's a completely different instrument, the Baroque
Yes.
violin, to the modern violin. So maybe immediately we should just say a few things about this Baroque violin, and what, of course, makes a Baroque violin sound different from a modern violin. And there's many, many aspects to it, but maybe tell us shed light on a few of them.
Yes, for sure. I mean, the ones that you see most obviously are the things that aren't there actually. So if you go to the Modern Symphony Orchestra, the Vancouver Symphony Orchestra concert, you'll see the violinists with a chin rest under their chin and probably a shoulder rest on their shoulder. And all of those things are kind of 19th and 20th century inventions for the violin. So they were not used at the time of most of the music that Tafelmusik plays. And so we are working on instruments that are either historical instruments or copies of historical instruments. So if we're playing Bach, we're using an instrument that we try to find and use the information that we have on hand to create an instrument that is set up in the same way that it would have been at that time. And actually, in the case of the violin, it's not that uncommon to find a violin. My violin is from around 1770, so just a little bit after Bach's time. And it's not that hard to find instruments like that. The violin was actually a really beautiful and stable and genius structure that's quite durable. And so if they're taken care of well, they can last for centuries. And even if they're not taken care of well, we have some incredible luthiers and artisans that are specialized in restoration fields that can make them as if they were brand new. So I
Or
play on an ancient instrument like that. And then there are some other things about the sound, just to continue. We use strings that were made from the materials that were at hand in the Baroque time, which was not steel or aluminum, but actually is gut, so made from sheep or cow gut, the strings. And while that doesn't always provoke a wonderful response from the audience, I can tell you that actually the sound of it is something very special, very warm, very resonant. It's a whole different kind of sound ideal, the type of sound that we're aiming to create on this kind of Baroque violin compared to a modern violin. So we're looking for a sound that is very, very resonant, that is meant to inspire emotions. Well, I suppose you could say that about every violin. Whereas the modern violin is meant more to project a big volume of sound that can compete with a whole orchestra, for instance. The Baroque violin is not meant for that.
Yeah, no, thank you. That's really very interesting, and it's great that we're keeping luthiers alive and well also today to recreate some of those instruments. And also, yeah, you speak about the strings, which is so important, and the warmth of that sound. And could you say a little bit something, because the bows are also
Yes.
different, and how, because also you're playing music sometimes, Tafelmusik has gone all the way to Beethoven sometimes.
Yes.
So do you use different bows when it's Baroque, when it's slightly romantic? How does that work?
Yes, I certainly do. Actually, I'm just looking around because I'm here in my studio and I actually just off camera, I have bows hanging everywhere. So yes, I was saying how the violin was a very stable structure starting from really this early 17th century. The shape of the violin basically didn't change that much. Many of the details of how it was set up changed, but the basic, what we would recognize as a violin has been recognizable like that for 4 centuries. But the bow, on the other hand, has gone through many, many changes. Um, and especially in the shape, oh, I can just show you because they are really right here. So this is an example of a Baroque bow, and you can see how the tip of it is kind of pointed and curved, and you can also see how the general shape is that the the frog is the heaviest part, and then it becomes very much lighter here, and that's meant to be appropriate for playing dance music where you have a very strong rhythmic drive to the music. And then I'm looking around for a different bow. There's one hanging behind me.
Go for it.
Just to give the comparison, since we're here, that when you get to the Baroque times, we're looking, or to the modern bow, we're looking at a bow that has this kind of shape to the tip and a frog and various things here, where now we have metal and we have heavy things. We have mother of pearl and ebony and all this kind of stuff. So it's a very, very different shape, and they perform very different functions. And so that was an example of the far reaches of the extremes. And then in between, kind of every 50 years, there's for sure a different bow that's more appropriate for that repertoire. So yes, as Baroque violinists, we do tend to start collecting bows, and it's really fun.
Amazing. Do you still play the modern violin?
I do, yes, not so much. And I would say that I love playing it, and I love the music that goes with it. And, you know, when you start to really focus on historically informed performance, that applies to all music. It's not about ancient music or about a time period. It's about thinking about the composer's intentions, thinking about the equipment you're playing on. So then actually, the modern violin is just another extension of part of that. So yes, I really relish the opportunities I have to do that.
Yeah, that's a wonderful answer. Thank you so much for all that and for showing us the bows. That's really
Studio
exciting.
tour.
Yeah, a little tour. So maybe let's go to Tafelmusik. Of course, how long have you been playing with Tafelmusik?
Well, I think it must be 21 years now.
Wow.
So quite some time.
Time flies.
Yes.
So I've known Tafelmusik since a very long time as well. And I think probably a lot of our listeners know the name of Jean Lamont, of course, who was leading the orchestra for so many years. And when she retired, or since she retired, I should say, it's really gone through a lot of changes and
Mm,
it, a way of refining its identity after Jean.
hmm.
And so I'm just very interested in the fact that the model that you've ended up with and that you've chosen is one of having a combination of three co-artistic directors, of which you are one.
Yes.
I'd love to hear how that evolved, how you ended up with this new model, and then we'll talk more about this model, which I find really fascinating.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, it is unusual and something that we find is very special and unique to Tafelmusik, actually. Um, so we had our wonderful kind of founding music director, Jean Lamont, who, well, she didn't found the orchestra, but she was there from, one of the very earliest years, and then was there for, I think, 35 years or something like that. So, really a long time. And for many organizations, arts organizations in particular, when you face the retirement of a kind of founding director, that's a time of big change for the organization. And so we knew it would be for us. And although we were, it was a sad departure for Jean, although we knew it was what she wanted, and that it was a big step for her and a sort of a new chapter of her life. Um, but it was a big change for the organization. And so we had we anticipated it in a number of different ways and had a lot of different discussions about what the future of TAF music should look like. So we had a wonderful music director for a number of years after Jean left, Elisa Citerio, the Italian violinist. And when she departed, then we thought, okay, now's the time to think about a new idea. And it wasn't really a new idea to us because it was something we had talked about for a while, but we felt that, you know, I say I've been at TAF Music for 21 years. I am by far not the person who's been there the longest. Once people have that position in TAF Music, they tend to stay for a very long time. And so when we looked around at the group of the musicians, we felt that there was so much expertise and so much dedication and so much knowledge just in that room that we did not feel the need to go looking outside of that to find ideas and inspiration and passion and real commitment also to the organization. So we created this new structure where we have 3 artistic co-directors. I'm one, of course, Brandon Choi, the violist, and Dominic Teresi, the bassoon player. And I think between the 3 of us, we've got about 4 decades of experience in the organization. So we were hardly new to Tafelmusik, but new to some of the tasks that go along with being an artistic director.
Thank you. Well, speaking of tasks, do you share specific tasks or roles as 3 directors, and how does that work?
Yes, well, it's very nice, and I don't want to make you jealous, Suzie, because I know that you have to do so many different things as an executive director and artistic director of such a wonderful organization in Vancouver. We do love having 3 of us so that we can kind of play to our strengths, right? So yes, we do divide some things up. And have some slightly different areas of responsibility, and that just allows us to, you know, because we're all 3 full-time performers with the organization as well. It really helps to manage our time effectively.
Yes, yes. It's funny because I was going to ask you something, but maybe it does not fit anymore. But it's just like, I know that by myself, I end up having so many ideas, especially usually at 3 or 4 in the morning about what programs and also I'm thinking if there's 3 of you, do you have triple the amount of ideas that are you planning into 2030 already?
Well, yes, sometimes we do have a long list of ideas, but also I think the nice thing is that when you have that idea at 3 o'clock in the morning, you can send off a little note to the other 2 and say, what about this? And then sometimes they make it a lot better. Or sometimes they say, oh, you've forgotten that we already did that 5 years ago, or here's the reason we can't, or whatever, you know, so it's actually, we really enjoy being able to, yeah, have those ideas be part of a conversation.
Yeah. So before we talk about the tour that you're going to take in November, this US and Canadian tour, and your performance in Vancouver, which we are so looking forward to, I just wanted to touch on one thing more about, you know, the differences maybe that people don't realize. People come to a concert, they see you on stage, you're playing a concert. But I know that in period and historical music, there's so much that needs to happen between even having an idea for a piece and getting it to the performance stage, because sometimes the score isn't even available or has to be searched out in a library or copied out. I mean, there's just so much that goes into the preparation of the music being played on stage. And I just thought you might want to, you know, take us a little bit through maybe an example you have or a memory of a project and how it, you know, took all these different steps, you know.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, it's very, as you know, there are so many steps, and sometimes and you don't always know what they are from the moment of the idea to the moment of it happening on stage. So it's exciting. and, and I mean, that is part of what we love, right? And especially as historical performers, like you say, there's not always a part, there's not always an edition that you can buy or rent somewhere. So often that means starting from a facsimile, or sometimes it means playing from a facsimile part. So a facsimile part is a part that's in the handwriting of the editions from the 18th century, for instance. See, studio tour, back on the studio tour. So that can look something like this. This is one of the pieces by Avison that we're playing in our concert for you. Got it here on my stand, and it looks like this on the inside. So quite different than the modern musical notation that people might be accustomed to, but actually very legible. We play off parts like this all the time when we have access to them. And it's one of the ways that we stay very connected to the kind of more original sources of the music. But in other cases, we're talking about like one of the pieces on our program in Vancouver next month is an arrangement that we've only just made. Well, actually, it was Dominic Teresi, my co-artistic director, who made an arrangement for the orchestra of one of the Bach preludes and fugues. And this is one of those ideas. We've had that idea for a while, talking about it for a while, and then finally this was the right program where we thought, okay, this is when it could really happen. And as of the time that I'm speaking to you today, Susie, we still haven't played it all together as the orchestra, you know? So there's still a lot of, you might think that playing the music of Bach is a well-worn path, but actually in some cases, it's very fresh and very exciting. So we love to make that kind of exploration and to sort of try new things, even with repertoire that's well known in a different context.
Yeah, and arranging is, of course, such a Baroque thing to do and
Yeah,
happened all the time back then as well. And especially with Bach, he loved to rearrange his
yeah.
pieces, so why not? So let's talk about this tour. And maybe, well, thank you for showing a musical score. And I think what I love about those playing from facsimile scores and parts is it's not as straight as, a computer would do. Like there's still curves when you have,
Mhm.
let's say, a melisma or something, and you see the curve in it kind of gives you an idea of the gesture of the music. I just think that's so lovely to have a visual rapport like that with
Yes.
the dance aspect and everything. Anyway, who picked or who, this particular program that you're going to tour with, Brilliant Baroque, who picked the music? Who picked the program for it?
Right. Well, this program was put together mostly as a collaboration between Rachel Podger, who's our guest director, the British violinist, and Dominic Teresi, who does a lot of the programming. So you were talking about the division of labor between the three of us. So he takes responsibility for a lot of the detailed programming. So he and Rachel dreamed this up between the two of them, and it's a wonderful program that really touches on a lot of our kind of favorite kinds of music from the Baroque times, our favorite composers, our favorite countries, and also the plays to the the strengths and the love of the group, of the things that we really love to play the
Mm.
most.
Mm. Are there any pieces particularly that excite you about the program?
Well, there's so many. I mean, some of them we've played before. I'm just looking at the list here. And some of them are like the Prelude and Fugue I was mentioning. That's going to be new to the group. So I'm quite excited to hear how that all comes together. Rachel suggested a suite from Lully. So Tafelmusik, over the years, we've played many suites from various of Lully's operas and ballets. The instrumental music is just so gorgeous and we love it so much. But actually the one that we're doing is from Roland on this tour. And this is new to me. I haven't played this music before. So I'm really looking forward to discovering, when you have a composer that you already know you love, then discovering a new piece of theirs is a wonderful kind of mix of something familiar but something new.
Absolutely. Well, speaking of something familiar, something new, how did the relationship with Rachel Podger come about with Tafelmusik?
Oh, very organically. We knew of her, and of course, we're familiar with her many incredible recordings. But she came to play a program with us. It was a Haydn program. I can't remember what year. It was maybe 2 or 3 years ago. And it was just such a great chemistry between her and the orchestra. And we all remarked on it, and she remarked on it. And at that time, we had just started this new model that we've spoken about of having the artistic co-directors. And we thought, oh, well, this could be a really exciting thing because we have more space now in our schedule and in our structure for guest directors who don't have to live in Toronto. They don't have to be responsible for administrative parts of the job. But we love the idea of finding someone very inspiring who could spend more time with us than just maybe once a year or maybe once every 2 years, which is often what it can be when you're looking at a guest
Yeah.
orchestral director. So we created this position of principal guest director for Rachel, and it's been just a wonderful relationship. So she spends about three programs per season with us in Toronto, and then we've also been on tour with her a couple times, and this will be the next installment when we come to
Yeah. Wow, you're very lucky. I mean, her joy of playing music is just so infectious and wonderful and communicative. Yeah. Something else I wanted to mention because you alternate positions, right? And you alternate leadership
Mhm.
sometimes of who's leading the orchestra, actually. When did that start? And can you talk about what maybe, yeah, what it creates, what it gives, what it brings to the orchestra to actually change seats like that, not have everybody always in the same spot, being a follower for the rest of your life or being a leader for, like, how does that?
Yeah. Oh, I'd be happy to talk about that. It's something very special to Tafelmusik, and I really believe it's a big key to our artistic success. Um, and it's part of Jean's legacy to us, actually. This was something that Jean did. I mean, of course, when Jean was there as music director, when she was playing, she was always our concertmaster and our leader. But she always, within the rest of the violin section and the other sections, there was a lot of moving around, moving seats. So we didn't always have the same leader of the second violins or leader of the violas or whatever. And people sat in different seats. People sat in the second violin section for one program and then the first violin section for the next program. And we're not just put in one place, as you say, and then that's like your narrow job for life kind of thing. And what I find is so fantastic about that is that it does require you to be a more flexible and a musician, and it gives you different types of experience that allows you to be more flexible. So when you are leading, you notice what you need from the people who are supposed to follow you in that moment, you know? And so then the next week, when you're following someone else, you have that in mind of like, oh, right, I understand what they need because I've been in that spot. Um, and it allows for a lot of artistic growth, I believe, for all of members of the orchestra, and a really fulfilling career that allows a wider range. So sometimes we describe it as being like an orchestra of soloists, where we want everybody who joins the orchestra to be able to step up in front of the group and play a solo, or to lead a section, or to teach a master class, or to whatever. You know, we really look for those individuals who have a wide range of skills, and we have them, so we also want to be sure that we utilize that. So it's a wonderful thing. We try to rotate leadership within all the sections as much as possible, and so having made some changes over the years, we now have an orchestra that where all of the leadership within the orchestra is shared amongst the members of each section.
It's really beautiful, and it's noticeable. Like for having gone to Tafelmusik concerts, everybody on the stage feels like a leader
Mm-hmm.
and is involved and engaged in it. It's absolutely beautiful to watch and fun also, like you say, to play to everybody's strengths.
Mm-hmm.
You might be better in folk music or this or that, or it's really lovely to see. Another difference, I mean, we do that as well in Pacific Baroque Orchestra. People shift seats within the sections. And also, like you say, sometimes they play second or first. We do that as well. Another thing that does differentiate Baroque orchestras, I think, from modern orchestras, and at PBO, we do the same thing as you, which is playing standing up.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, not the cellos and the keyboard players, but when did that start? And what do you think it does? What do you think it brings?
Yeah, well, it to me, what it brings, for those of us who are able to stand while playing, obviously, it is just a greater flexibility and a slightly more natural ability to interact with each other.
Mm.
When you're seated, you're a little bit more locked into a position, and you have to, set up your chair so you can see the music and not be in somebody's way, and you're a little bit more like fixed. And because we're basically playing chamber music all the time, we have to be able to communicate physically with each other in order to make music together. So when we're standing, we're able to do that a little bit more. We do sit from time to time also. It depends on the repertoire and the particular needs of the program, but it has been our preference to stand when we can. It just yeah, there's sort of an ease of movement and an ease of communication that comes along with that.
Yeah, and you speak of chamber music and being a more flexible, and it's funny, like I never even thought about it, but Baroque music is so much dance music. So to be able to stand up and move a little bit, does
Yeah.
with a lot of the dance music.
Yes.
Um, so are there any exciting, I mean, I'm really excited about this tour, and it's fantastic. You're doing so many West Coast cities, and we're so lucky to be on the tour as well. It's a big tour, right? I mean, quite a few cities.
Yes, I
How
think we're doing
many?
about 12 dates.
12 dates, yeah, okay. And you tour a lot with Tafelmusik. I mean, how many tours in a year would you say you do?
Well, at the moment it's one or two, or sometimes there's like, a smaller tour and a bigger tour, or it depends on the season. As you know, tour planning is such a long game. It takes a long time, and you don't know exactly which opportunities are going to come to pass and which ones are going to get deferred and whatever. So there's no like set plan,
Yeah.
but we do work on it in quite far distance in terms of planning when we can do which tours. And it has been part of Tafelmusic's history for all of the 45 plus years, 47 years that Tafelmusik has existed. And it's something that we really love. The experience of playing in different halls all the time. It teaches you so much about your sound, how to adjust, when you have to do this and when you can do that, and how to know and how to switch very suddenly as a group to a different kind of type of sound production. Also, experiencing different audiences is wonderful. And what you really learn is just how universal music is, because when you have a great program or a great piece or a great soloist or whatever it happens to be, people respond, and they respond consistently, even when you're in a different city and a different group altogether. So that's really wonderful, but it is really fun to get to sort of have that relationship for that moment in time with a different audience. And we're so lucky especially in the Canadian cities like Vancouver, that we've played for that audience many times.
Yes.
And so we feel like there is a relationship there, and we love being able to be there in person to kind of keep the fire burning a little bit.
Yeah, there's no question about that, because when we announced that you were coming, people were extremely excited and, oh, finally they're coming back, so I know you'll
Yeah.
have a fantastic, warm audience to play to. So what's the most beautiful venue you've played in the world?
Oh, well, boy. That's a very tough one. There are some that are so physically beautiful, you just kind of can't believe it, like at the Versailles Opera House or places like that, where it's like just so inspiring just to be in the space. And then it also sounds very good, which is incredible, and the history of it. Um, but then there's the places where it's because of the people who are there that you love the hall. So I think there's a lot of different reasons to love a concert space, and some of them have to do with the people and some of them have to do with the place. I don't know, it's a bit like choosing your favorite child. I don't know if I would go out on a limb to pick just one.
Yeah, well, that's a good answer. And it's a beautiful way to end, because, of course, you're going to play in the Chan Center that you've played in before, which is a very beautiful hall in Vancouver.
Incredible. Yeah.
And we really look forward to welcoming you and the orchestra and Rachel Podger, of course. So thank you for today. Thank you for your time. And we look forward to seeing you on November 15th at the Chan Center at 7:30 p.m. and hope that we have a full house to greet you on that day. Thank
Thank
you.
you. We're so looking forward to it. Thank you, Suzie.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.